can't believe everything you think. You have to be open to reinventing yourself at any time in your life. If you feel like you want to be an artist, say you are an artist and start acting like what you think an artist acts like for you.
Before every episode, I like to pull a card from my Creative Genius deck and then have my guests talk about how that word relates to their own creative process. I never even got a chance to tell our word to today's guest because our conversation got so good so fast and was over before I knew it. I'll tell you what the word is closer to the end of the show. In the meantime, you are in for a treat today. You get to meet Wendy McWilliams, a delightful artist who is deeply connected to creativity and has some beautiful insights to share with us. After a varied and creative career working internationally for brands like Calvin Klein and Revlon, at 49, Wendy found her truest calling with abstract painting. She spent the next 11 years building her own art empire, and today, her pieces can be found in private collections all over the world. She's been featured on HGTV and on some pretty impressive design blogs. When she's not in her studio or out teaching her workshops, she can be found at her home in the countryside outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Basically, I created the Creative Genius podcast because I guess I just got sort of tired of seeing this collective belief that somehow we've all bought into that only certain people have access to creativity or are able to be creative or can make good things. And I guess myself at art shows or at markets where I was interacting with the public with my art, I saw like hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people come up to me and say, "Oh, I wish I could be an artist," or "I wish I could do that." And there was always this sort of sadness accompanying that. And so this podcast is an answer to that wish, because what I've come to understand over the years is that that wish is creativity itself saying, "Hi, I'm right here. Please let me out." And I want to talk to people like you who've gotten out of the way of whatever it is that's holding them back, or holding what maybe was or wasn't holding you back, but that you've stepped into this creative flow and are enjoying art in your life in a really, really big way. And I know you have a thriving art business. You've got pieces in private collections all over the world. You've had your work featured on design blogs and on TV shows, and you only started painting at 49. So I have questions for you. What were you doing before you were painting?
I've actually had 22 different jobs.
Wow. 22. Okay.
I'm what you would call a hot mess.
Oh my goodness. Well, it just sounds like you're interested in a lot of things. Is that part of it?
Have always been really brave and just thought, hey, let me try this, let me try that. A lot of times it worked out good for a while, but sometimes it just wasn't a good fit. And I just would move on,
Yeah.
try different things.
And has art or your full-time painting career, has that been sort of the thing that has felt the most sort of right? And it feels like, okay, out of all those 22 things, this is it. I'm home now.
It's the first thing that I've ever stuck with. It's
Wow.
it's 11 years now. It's
Wow.
the first thing that was like, this is what I was meant to do. Not saying those other 22 jobs, they were all jobs that were always creative, and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I was an activities director at a nursing home. I was a merchandiser for Calvin Klein, where I set up merchandise displays. So I've always had jobs that were creative, but I never knew that they were creative jobs, if that makes sense.
Yep. Well, I mean, when I look at people's stories or even my own story, it's always there. You can see that common thread, probably right back to when you were a little girl. I mean, I think about who I was when I was 10 and I was surrounded by art supplies. I needed to have paint with me everywhere I went. And I mean, I left that and came back to it many years later, but I think that there's always that kind of common theme. You can see it looking back. It was, oh yeah, it was in that, it was in that. Yeah.
I never did art as a young person ever. I knew nothing about art. I took art in high school, of course, and I knew I remember sketching. I loved charcoal sketching. I did that for, during maybe a year in art. And that was it for me. When I walked into the Hobby Lobby for the first time at 49, I didn't know. I was looking for something fun to do.
Okay.
Did I know that when I picked out the little packet of brushes and the acrylic paint tubes and the paper pad, that was going to completely transform my life? No, I had no idea. I just was looking for something to do.
Right. And when did you know? Do you remember a moment where you were like, oh my goodness, feels different?
Yeah, the first day.
Wow.
The first day I started, I've told this story many times, but it's really, really important story. I got to learn to paint orchid book with my little supply kit that I bought, all this stuff. I bought the cheap little acrylics, the
Yeah.
cheap little brushes that little kids use,
Yeah.
pad of paper, and I took the book and put it next to my little pad, and I tried to exactly do that orchid exactly like the book was showing me. And I thought, my God, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'd ever painted. And, I think I'd done paint by numbers early in my life with my mother or something. We did paint by numbers. But I'd never painted since then. I'd certainly never done freeform painting. And I just had a voice come to me, just as clear as you and I. And it said, do it again, but relax.
Oh, beautiful.
And I did. I just kind of got loose. Something just got looser. And I really loved that orchid, that second orchid. And I'm like, oh my God, I love painting.
Wow.
I was up and running, and I was a mess. I didn't shower for days. All I did was paint from morning to night with pajamas that were full of paint. And that was it. I was hooked from the second painting on.
Wow. What do you think that voice was? If you had to put a name on it, what is that for you?
I do believe it was creation itself.
Yeah.
My source.
Yeah.
Urging me, because I've always listened to that. That's why I had 22 jobs.
Right. Go here now. Okay. If you're telling me to, okay.
I've always listened to my intuition of following whatever I felt like doing.
Does it come to you that clearly? I've had a few experiences in my life too, where it's like an audible, and I don't know whose voice I would even say it sounded like, and I couldn't describe it, but I know I heard it. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So do you find that the more you listen to it, the more you hear it, or is it really just, it comes at random intervals and it's not a frequent thing?
I can probably count on my one hand how many times I've heard that voice in my life.
Uh-huh.
This one was very strong, and it was also, and I don't know how long you want to talk to me about this, but I've been painting for 2 weeks, and I had a dream about a geisha. And I'm not a woo-woo person. That's the first thing I want you to know.
Okay.
I'm a very logical person that lives a logical life, but I had a dream about a geisha, and I don't dream very often.
Mm-hmm.
But this dream was so vivid, this geisha, that I Googled geisha because I wanted to know, maybe I was trying, and sure enough, it led me to an art sharing site. And I'd only been painting 2 weeks. And this art sharing site was called Redbubble. It was in Australia. And I saw this site, and all these people were sharing their art. And I started sharing mine online right away at 2 weeks. And it was really bad art, okay? It was really bad art. And I didn't care. I was like, no, these people are sharing their art. I'm going to share my art too. And I got so much love and encouragement from these people they could tell I was a new painter, and they were, oh my God, Wendy, this is so good. Keep going. So I do believe. And years later, I Googled geisha again, just for shits and giggles.
Uh-huh.
It said, an artisan, geisha, the word means artisan. And so I believe truly in my heart and soul that was, I don't know how it works. I don't know if source gives you symbolism like that, because we don't understand. That's how what we comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
For me to listen to that prompt and follow up by Googling geisha, and
Mm-hmm.
I just believe everything that's happened in my life has always been me being curious,
Mm-hmm.
nosy, got to find out, what does that mean? Why did I think that? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
Well, I love that. I love that. And I love that being in relationship with that intelligence, because it does have a palpable energy to it. Like it is almost like I mean, it's not a person, obviously, but it has a presence. And I guess I struggle with, and so I love to hear that it's only been a few times, you could count on one hand, because I'm like, why isn't it talking to me every day? And I need more information. And what do I do? And, all that kind of more human.
I don't even look for it to happen. Whenever it's happened, it's always been like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of the blue. So do you dream a lot more now, or was that still also a sort of a random?
I dream often. I really don't, that I can remember, but the dreams I have are usually pretty intensely, almost like I've had a dream that was my mother came to me and she actually helped me get out of a really bad situation that I was in my dream. And so
Wow.
I've had a couple of dreams that are like that, but I don't have them a lot.
A lot. Yeah. Okay. It's kind of, I always like just sort of gauging it, like how, because I don't know how this thing works either, but I know that these things are real. And I just wonder, like, what's their rhythm and how do we get to know this intelligence?
They are real. I think our only job is to just be open
Mm-hmm.
to receiving and not doubting, because I think a lot we kind of um, are skeptical of everything. We don't
Mm-hmm.
trust ourselves, our inner guidance, and that really is a channel. I believe my art is a channel. When
Mm-hmm.
I start painting, I'm in the flow of source. Source is going through me. It's not me painting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm opening up, and the more I can allow source to just me to leave the picture and source to come through, the more I believe, the more beautiful my painting is.
What do you think it's trying to do when it's flowing through you and you're allowing it? Because I often have that experience where I feel like I am, so it needs me to come into form because it can't paint. It doesn't have hands. Yeah, I'm a vehicle.
We're vehicles for
Yeah.
creation. Just like, I guess, a flower, when you plant a seed, that beauty that comes forth, the stem and all that, and the bud, and that's the vehicle for beauty. We're kind of that way too, but on a much more intricate level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I feel anyways. I don't
What
know
do
how
you
to.
what do you think it's trying to do? Like, do you get a sense of what it's trying to do as it creates through you, as it's making these beautiful pieces of art? What is it?
Creation loves to keep creating.
Mm-hmm.
We are meant to keep creating, whether it be cooking a beautiful meal, whether it be, building something. That's how we evolve. We're meant to create. Everything's meant to create. Everything creates.
So
That's
for the person who's at home right now listening to this going, okay, yeah, this resonates. I don't even know why, but this feels right. But they've had this story that they've bought into, because I think it's taught to us in school. If you can sing and sound like the teacher, then you're a musician. Or if you can draw and make it look quote unquote good, then okay, you can be called an artist. But
right.
I mean, aside from the fact that I think that's the wrong way of looking at creativity and creation and what it's trying to do, for that person who's at home going, okay, this feels right. Yes. But how do I change my story about, because I've really believed my whole life that I'm not creative. So how do you go from believing that you're not creative to opening that possibility?
You kind of have to, this is how I live my whole life. You can't believe everything you think.
Mm.
You have to be open to reinventing yourself at any time in your life. That's, if you feel like you want to be an artist, say you are an artist and start acting like what you think an artist acts like for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a different type of artist than a lot of artists I see.
Mm-hmm.
If you look through Instagram, a lot of these feeds are very, very particularly curated.
Mm-hmm.
because there's a certain image I think a lot of people think an artist needs to have. I'll throw something in there that's totally not art to do with art on my feed. I don't care.
Hmm.
I feel like you need to truly be yourself, and there's no right way or wrong way to be an artist.
Yeah, you had a post a little while ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, where you were obviously in a mood of some kind and you were like, I don't give a shit what this looks like. And I was just like, yes, that's real art.
Absolutely, because I struggle at times with, like every artist does, and I don't care who they are, they do too. Unless they absolutely don't care and don't need money.
Right.
But it's my livelihood too. It's how I feel. Money is energy. It's not a dirty word.
Hmm.
It's just an exchange of energy. My
Hmm.
pain has energy, and when somebody pays me, that money is energy. So I don't have a problem with money.
Hmm.
A lot of artists do. A lot of artists feel very, very uncomfortable about even talking about it.
Hmm. Was that
And
natural for you? Did you have to work on having that attitude towards money, or was that always something you?
when I first started selling my work, because people were asking me, I didn't even know. That's how ignorant I was about art. I didn't even realize it wasn't in my consciousness that people actually sell their art and make money off of it. I were saying, "Oh, Wendy, how much is this? I love it. Is it for sale?" I remember thinking, "Cool, crap. How much should I charge for this?"
Hmm.
So I said $35, for a little paper piece, because I was doing paper for a long time, because I was learning, teaching
Hmm.
my everything. And I had not went bigger yet. I didn't have any space. I was working in my dining room. And I just always felt completely comfortable with it because I painted it. And I
Right.
felt like if somebody wants to pay me for it, yeah. So I always did. And as my prices started getting more, where I was asking more, because I was spending a lot more money on supplies,
Mhm.
and I felt justified in asking for money. And I think that is a mindset that you have to kind of work through and say what you do has value to somebody.
Yeah.
And if they want to spend money and buy it, be gracious, say thank you, and sell it to them.
Yes, indeed.
I've worked through. I've just worked through it. You kind of
What?
have everybody has to do that themselves.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I ask because I think a lot of people who are I mean, there's so many places along the journey, but there are so many people listening to this right now who are going, okay, well, actually, I've allowed myself to play. I'm now creating work that I feel connected to and is beautiful and has some energy to it. I want to sell it. How do I? So I always want to talk about that a little bit to help people sort of understand that it is something you have to cultivate. It's like a healthy relationship to anything else. And it creates all of what's going to happen for you comes from.
Absolutely, because it's connected to you as an artist as well. If you're afraid to ask or let people know that your work's available for sale, that's just a symptom of you not feeling really authentically as an artist.
Mhm, mhm, and that
You
needs to be healed. Yes, that needs to be resolved before you can move on. Yep. Yeah. What job were you doing when you were that day you went to Hobby Lobby and you got the paints and you're doing the orchid and you're in your pajamas and nobody heard from you for what was going on in your life right then? What work were you doing?
We had been living in Germany. I
Okay.
was in Germany and working for Calvin Klein and Revlon. I was doing their displays at the military stores in Europe. We
Okay.
lived in Germany. We got stationed in El Paso, Texas, and it was the middle of summer, and it was very, very hot. And I really looked for work, but couldn't find work in El Paso. So I thought, it's 116 degrees. I'm in the house all the time now. I'm not working. And I was starting to get a little nutty because I started to feel bad, like I don't have any purpose.
Right.
So maybe I need to get a hobby. I had never had a hobby. And I thought I need a hobby of some type. So the store was named Hobby Lobby because, see, we were in Germany and they didn't have Hobby Lobby in Europe. And I had never seen a Hobby Lobby. And El Paso had this big Hobby Lobby. So I walked in there and I started walking around the store and I thought, what do I want to do? And I've told this story before. It's a pretty cute story. The boy was working there. He's about 20. And I said, I'm looking for a hobby. What do you recommend? And he said, oh, I said, what about painting? And he said, oh, that's a really hard hobby. He said,
Oh,
you should try maybe this glass cutting. Or, I don't know. He showed me some things. And none of it looked like anything I really wanted to do. The painting was kind of attractive to me for some reason. Not because I didn't even know about a future. I just knew that I wanted to do something tactile like that, you know, just touching stuff and painting. And that's kind of how it happened. So I just ignored the boy
mm-hmm.
and I went ahead with the painting.
I love that. Well, and you bring up something that I think is really important to pay attention to, which is it's an offshoot of this collective belief we have that, oh, only certain people can be creative. Okay, well, if you're able to transcend that and, machete that out of your way as you walk through the jungle of life, the next thing you come up with is all of these other limiting beliefs that are sort of like offshoots of that main belief. And one of them is it's too hard. It's too hard to be good at it. It's too hard to get a following. It's too hard to sell I mean, all of those.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth. That was not even, I didn't even think about if it being hard. It didn't matter to me
Mm-hmm.
because I've never done anything with art before. I didn't even know about the whole career thing. Wasn't even thinking that way. I was thinking more about pleasure, having pleasure in painting and learning to enjoy doing something that was with my hands. And it wasn't until I started, I actually had people asking to buy my work like 3-4 weeks after had started painting. Really, really bad things they were buying. And I was sitting there going, oh, people buy this? You know? It was a total shock to me. And then I started, as I look back now, 11 years and what career I've built for myself with my art, I can't believe that I was able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a total shock to me every day when I get up and I paint that I'm getting to do this beautiful thing that I love, and people like it, and I get to do podcasts like this. Thank you, by the way.
Isn't it wonderful? Listen, it's my pleasure. It's my joy to speak to you because every time I have one of these beautiful, casual, but deep conversations with somebody, something inside of me grows. And I feel like that voice that came and talked to you and told you to just relax and enjoy it. It's talking to me too. Like, I feel like it all serves everybody. So it's my pleasure as well. Thank you.
Oh, it's just my pleasure because it feels so good to open up about something that makes me so happy.
Yeah. Do you think that was, because I know a lot of people, myself included, have had moments where I think, oh, okay, I just have to, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to get good? How am I going to get past this? Because sometimes I'll pick up a paintbrush and I'm right where you were on that first orchid. I'm trying to.
I'm like on that first orchid some days. It's part of being an artist. It's always going to be there. I say the day you're not doubting and afraid anymore, you've stopped growing.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do when so that they don't take over those doubts? Because you can spiral down into that world and just doubt,
Yeah, I still have those days. Like right now, I'm going through a little bit of a dry spell. A lot of my art friends are messaging me. What's going on? Nobody's buying art. I need to make money. Got bills to pay. We all are like constantly, and I'll tell you the best way to see this is, if you're going to choose a creative life, you're like a dog hunting for your dinner every day.
Mm-hmm.
You are never going to be able to sit back and say, I'm an artist, I'm successful, I got this.
Right.
There's always new painters coming that got really amazing new work that they're going to be, all of a sudden everybody's going to be, oh my gosh, her work's amazing. You've got to live with doubt and uncertainty the whole time you are an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make friends with it. Mm-hmm. You got to know that you're going to feel that way. And you're going to feel like that often. You may think, I could sell 3 huge paintings and feel puffed up. And then a week later, I'm like, crap. Am I ever going to sell another painting?
Mm-hmm.
It never stops. And that's why I tell people, a lot of new artists or younger artists will message me with questions and they're stressed out. They're so stressed out about art. You have to be comfortable with that stress, or why do it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're miserable and you're really unhappy about it and you can't handle that part of it, I say, maybe you don't like it as much as you think you do.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this is more information for you, that it's not the
Maybe
right
you're
path for you.
forcing something that's not, because I don't care how stressful it is. I still love doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you found your
Yeah, but
channel.
as far as getting through that scared feeling, I say just slap some paint on the canvas.
That's beautiful.
Just start doing it.
Yeah, just do it.
Ignore those feelings or work through them on that canvas, but don't let your mind think too much about what you think this painting is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I had a guest on the other week, and she quoted her father, who was a well-known Canadian Indigenous contemporary artist, one of the first ones who was bought by her name is Anong Beam. She's an amazing artist herself, but she said that he used to always say that the rational mind is the home of bad painting. And I was like, that's a beautiful, because it's true. Every time I try, and I do think that there's art is in a way almost like a mirror of life. It's trying to sort of show us, like, because all these things that we're saying about paintings and about art and about apply to life in general. Like the more you're trying and the more you panic and the more you freak out and yeah.
It's helped me so much with everything. The principles I've used for my art in my art career, because the career is a whole different thing than painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole different, once you start making it your business, it becomes a whole different level of anxiety.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the biggest challenge for you has been in terms of the career part of it, in building that over the last 11 years? What would you say was the toughest thing you had to overcome or deal with?
It's every thing. Every day, it's kind of the same as, am I really as good? Am I still, people still like my work?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stupid white noise that goes on that with the probably on a bigger level than when you're just saying, oh, is this painting good?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this looks like crap. I don't worry about that anymore. Now I worry about, are people still going to come to my workshops? Are people still going to buy my work? It's just a big layered, and I'm being honest here, and all artists feel it, and they just wouldn't be honest about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Of people say, oh, I do it for the art. I don't care. I would do it. If you started making money, a lot of money, and you're making a good life for yourself, you want to keep that life.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay to believe both of those things. I mean, it's okay. It's a little bit of an oxymoron, but you can have the I don't care and also still want to build a career and make a business out of it.
It's kind of probably similar now. It's opened my eyes to what songwriters must go through, and singers and musicians. Their last hit was amazing, but people don't remember them anymore until they do a hit. So that's the thing with creation and money. That's kind of where you got to kind of be careful and constantly talk to yourself and get your mind right.
How do you stay connected with so we talked about a dry spell, but I was getting the sense that that's more for in the market, not really sort of from your creativity. So do you ever get creative blocks?
No.
That's
beautiful. If I get like, or I'm not able to think of what to paint or how to go with it, or if the painting starts becoming a struggle for me, I just don't paint for a while. And all it has to do is one trip to the museum and my juices are gone.
Beautiful. Well, you found the thing that helps get the juices flowing again for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at art, just seeing art in a magazine. All of a sudden I'm like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Got to get my paintbrush wet.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. Yeah,
it does. It works. I have the biggest compliment I get is if somebody messages me and says, I'm on vacation and you posted a painting and I'm dying to get home and start painting. That's a huge compliment to me because I know that feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
These work and they just get me.
I panic. If I'm traveling, I have to have something with me. I have watercolors with me or like something, because I have to be able to. I was visiting my mom on this little Gulf island here in BC, and I think there's like 600 people or something that live in this little town on this little island. And I brought my watercolors, but I forgot a paintbrush. And I was like looking at the trees going, okay, well, maybe I could
make something out of cedar branches, or I could, I had to get that.
Like little paintbrushes.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I'd forgotten my paintbrushes.
There was no store or anything where you could grab some paintbrushes?
Oh, there's a little, yes, there was a little general store, but they were out. They had like an eraser and a piece of charcoal. Like their little art section was, because I'm sure lots of other people were like me, had passed through earlier that summer.
Tell you about that. I listened to that. If maybe sometimes, just like everything has to take a rest, sometimes your creativity needs a little time. Just forget about art.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have any brushes or anything. It was becoming complicated. So I think I would have just said, forget it. I'm just not going to think about painting for a while.
Go with
And
the flow.
I always find when I come back after a time of not, I'm so full of energy for painting, and I'll just paint and paint and paint for days like I did when I first started.
This episode of Creative Genius is brought to you by Morning Moon Nature Jewelry. Instantly familiar, yet unlike anything you've ever owned, this extraordinary handcrafted heirloom jewelry is famous for its incredible detail of actual textures from nature. Get 15% off your first order and feel the wonder. Use coupon code CreativeGenius at lovemorningmoon.com. I think of that. I think of this creativity, this source that we're talking about, sometimes like a garden hose. And part of the whole intention of this podcast is that I think that we've all kinked up that garden hose, and there's all this energy that's just trying to burst out, and that it comes out in those wishes and all that. But I have talked to a few artists who say that just even getting to know the rhythm of how creativity wants to move in their bodies. Some people can't create every day. They have to give themselves, 2 or 3 days in between, and I think that is an important part of kind of getting to, you seem very intuitive. It feels like you just sort of along the way, were just always willing to listen and willing to.
Yeah, and the times that I can get in trouble are when I tried to force something.
Yeah. That's a big lesson.
When I get in trouble is when I try to, if I see a painting that another artist does and it's just gorgeous, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to do something similar. It goes over like a fart in church.
Yeah.
No. My people that follow me, they want the authentic me. And if I try to go in a different way, that's not really me. They can feel it.
You can feel it.
It's so true. And it's the same with my workshops. I used to be really nervous about my workshops. I don't have a curriculum. I don't have a structure. My workshops are just me being myself, and we paint and we have a great time. And my workshops have been very successful because I'm true to me. To do maybe a Donna Downey workshop or step-by-step workshop somebody else does that's popular. But that's the thing about being on social media. It's very easy to be shook and feel all of a sudden like, ooh, maybe I should be doing this instead. And that's what I want to tell people that are listening, that you're going to have those feelings from time to time about what you should be doing because you see somebody else doing it, whatever it is. Just know that that's natural, but don't listen to it.
Yeah, I want to reach for my phone here because I took a screenshot of a quote. It's reminding me of, I took it this morning. It says, people hate their own art because it looks like they made it. They think if they get better, so true. They think if they get better, it will stop looking like they made it. A better person made it. But there's no level of skill beyond which you stop being you. You hate the most valuable thing about your art.
That's so good. And you can apply that to yourself, the way you look. How many women hate their bodies? I can't tell you how many times I'll do something with a woman and we'll go shopping and she'll say, oh, I couldn't wear this. It doesn't, my body. People limit themselves in every area of their life like that about themselves. And that is what makes you you. Your body is your body, and love it for what it's done for you, And it's kind of the same way with your art. No, but it is hard to look at other artists that I think are so much better than me. And then I just tell myself, stop. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just, you're going to think that way sometimes. You just have to just shut that voice off. It's not God. That's not God talking.
Yeah. No, that's mind. That's the rational mind trying its best to do its thing, but it's very misguided and out of its depth when we're talking about judging and feeling art.
Absolutely.
I think about how I had a very profound experience a couple of years ago where I realized one day that I had been that I had this beautiful, she felt like this radiant being, best friend energy, some like that had been with me from the very beginning. It's like the essence of who I am as Kate.
Nice.
And my inner self, my soul, and that I'd been, I mean, in many ways, shitting all over myself. Oh, I don't look good in this. I don't look good in that. I'm not good at that. Like, but I'd been shoving down all of the gifts and it brought me to my knees. It was a life-changing moment. And I've done so much to free her and to allow her to come out. And that's so much behind the intention of this work, is that I want to help other women everywhere also fall in love with and free their inner radiant souls, self, whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. That's such important work you're doing.
Yeah. It feels like what is needing to happen right now. I think COVID, in many ways, although we've lost so many people and so many people are, have suffered around the world, there are also gifts in it. And for me, one of the gifts that I see is that it's made us look inward a lot. And I'm seeing a lot of people turn to creativity as it's almost like there's a difference between surrendering and being surrendered. And I feel like COVID has kind of surrendered us and we've had nowhere else to look. Like in many times we were just sort of cornered. And so I love that. And that's why I feel like it's kind of time to be having this conversation. And I just wanted to say one thing I think about is how whenever we have those limiting beliefs, or we look at a piece of art that we made and we catch ourselves, or maybe we don't catch ourselves yet, saying, oh, that looks like I made it, or I don't, all that stuff.
It's awful. I don't like it.
Yeah. It can. I have a teacher named Amanda Evanston, who's also another guest on another episode of this podcast. That was a great one too. Go back and listen to it. It's really good too.
Yes.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she will get angry at people. Like she will say, stop, the art can hear you. And she's sort of saying it tongue in cheek, but I to take that a little bit further, I think every cell in your body is eavesdropping on everything that you say about and it's so important that we're a different voice than maybe we grew up with or is around us in society or whatever.
And that's what it is I think that, you were saying you believe that, what did you say? I see it as electric current, like a outlet that we plug in.
Yeah. It's like a current.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's how I see it. And whenever I'm talking like that to myself or negative, it's because I'm not plugged in. It's impossible to stay plugged in all day. Yeah. Sometimes I just want to be pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just want to be negative.
Yeah.
I do know that I am able to catch myself more and more the longer I'm painting, because I believe painting has opened me into a world where I know about the feeling of being plugged in versus not being plugged in.
Yeah.
Which is something I didn't know before I became a painter. And I just thought, I think painting, somebody told me this once, it's not painting that's your gift. The gift is the love of painting. That's where the journey is. The journey is not in the painting itself and how it looks. It's the love of painting. That is where and that feeling can be translated into the love of my granddaughter, loving my granddaughter, loving my animals, loving my husband, the gift of being able to love. And that's the same thing with, that's why I was happy to do the podcast, because this is where the love is. You and I recognize each other, the frequency we're on.
We're doing this for each other.
Absolutely. Like I'm going to meet my sister. We're going to dinner tonight, and I'm going to be in a really good mood because we were plugged in
Mm-hmm.
during this call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do with when I'm painting. I try to be plugged in.
Oh, I feel like I could talk to you for the whole rest of the day, but I can't. I have to respect your time. I can't believe how quickly that went by. I would love to have you back on the show to talk more. I feel like we have lots more to cover, maybe one day.
Yeah, I love the spiritual stuff because I think we're starving for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everybody is.
Yeah.
We're starving for that, meaning that the reason why we're here. We're just here to love each other and love painting. And that's all it is. When somebody buys my work, they're just tapping into that same frequency.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, I do believe that that is why we're here. And when I ask about, what is creativity trying to do? And you were saying it's trying to create because that's its nature, and that makes sense. And for me, I feel like it's doing it purely to enjoy itself, and so that you enjoy it, and so that I enjoy it. It's pleasure. It's pleasure, which is why I'm not surprised you were able to uncover this whole channel that you did, because you came at it from that place of what feels good, and how can I enjoy this, and how, yeah.
Don't you love it when you hear, I'm gonna let you go then because I gotta go too. Don't you love it when you hear music on the radio that just makes you freaking fill up with goosebumps and chills? You're like, this is so damn good.
Yeah.
So it has to be God.
Yeah.
It has to be God that gave us that gift.
Yeah.
It's crazy how not everybody is like you and I that recognizes when they hear a good song.
Well, I feel like everybody recognizes it because we're all of the same. Nobody can be separate from this system that we're in, or whatever it's called.
But I think people are asleep.
Yeah.
There's people that are asleep and are not aware that that is a gift from God, that you're hearing this. And it may be a song that has a lot of sex in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a Christian song or a spiritual song.
Yeah.
It's a good groove, and you're like, that artist, that person that wrote this was in the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were in that flow and you recognize it, but not everybody recognizes that, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that that's what's happening right now, is that there's this bubbling up, like something's happening. I can feel there's more of that desire kind of percolating. And from that desire comes the need to wake up and understand how to plug in and how to
commune on this planet.
one day.
I probably won't be here.
Well, our work will be.
That, the future generations, I think they're waking up to not having to work jobs so much.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of people are saying, hey, wait a minute. I didn't go to work for a long time into work, and my life is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I can be home and be more with my family. And, maybe we're turning this COVID, this devastation has woken us and turned us a corner that we're starting to maybe come around more to a more balanced life.
I feel so. I feel it's the beginning of a renaissance. And, I go back to, the person and all of the people who are listening to this right now who are like, okay, we're at the beginning of a renaissance. Like, yes. Okay. Yes. But here I'm going to ask you my billboard question for them. If you had a billboard that every single person in the world who longed to be an artist or longed to connect with this current of creativity, but just for some reason believed, I'm not good enough, I'm not creative enough, that's not me, I'm a math person, whatever it is, but they had that longing and you knew that they were going to see this billboard, what would you put on it?
Pretend that nobody is looking.
Oh, yes.
You're just in your own bubble. People really don't care as much as you think they do.
That's so true. That's so true. Oh my goodness.
That's the biggest thing is because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, a lot of mistakes, really bad mistakes in relationships and jobs and things I've done that have been super embarrassing. You know what? I can't even think of any of them now.
Never mind, can anybody else remember them?
Yeah, so beat myself up so bad during those times.
Yeah.
And I've just learned now, like, just, that joke, make like a dog. When a dog pisses, kick some grass on it and keep going. That's kind of what you got to do. Just
keep going.
Do what you want to do and don't worry about other people's opinions.
It's
It's
so
so
beautiful.
important.
It's so simple and it's so true. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with me for this. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better and to have this chat with you. And I do hope that we can chat again in the future.
Have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much. It's been fun.
Like all good secrets, the secret to Wendy's success is hiding right there in plain sight for all to see. Be creative for the joy of it, and don't believe everything you think. It was her focus on pleasure and enjoyment that allowed Wendy to connect with the creative current that courses through her, which gave rise to her learning the difference between the feeling of being plugged in versus not plugged in to creative flow. Following the plugged in feeling is how she has been able to consistently create art that people feel connected with and want to buy in droves. And she invites us to make friends with doubt and uncertainty. Because let's face it, not only will they always be there, but more importantly, their presence brings us the good news that we are still learning and growing. If you take one thing away from this episode today, I hope it's the inspiration to get quiet and listen for what creativity is asking you to try. And then pretend nobody is looking and get to work. And remember at the beginning of the show when I told you about the card that I pulled for the Creative Genius deck for today's show? The word was vision. So I'll leave you with this thought. What would be available to you if you let your inner vision guide your creative explorations? Thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the show, please consider joining my Patreon at patreon.com/creativegeniuspodcast. Your support helps make it possible for me to continue bringing you these inspiring conversations with artists every other week. As a Patreon member, you'll have access to things like bonus content, live Ask Me Anything sessions, and even original art sent right to your door. We have an incredible lineup of guests coming up. You won't want to miss a single one. So before you forget, hit the subscribe button in your podcast app. And I would love it if you'd head over to iTunes to leave the show a review. I love your feedback. It helps me learn how to continue to evolve and improve the show for you. And did you know you can watch full video of most of our episodes? Head over to kateshepardcreative.com/creativegenius for all the details. Thank you again for listening. May you find and unleash your creative genius.